All right, we are live. What's up, Notjust developers? Welcome back to a new live stream. And today I have prepared for you some exciting things to work on. Today we're gonna build beautiful animations with Reanimated free library. So a couple of weeks back, Reanimated released their stable version of Reanimated 3.0. And with this version of Reanimated, finally we get to work with one of the most exciting features of Reanimated, which is the shared element transition. So I've been wanting so much to get into this feature, and I wanted to show you as well how you can do that. And that's what we're gonna do today. But the thing is that it was very easy to implement these shared element transitions. You're gonna see in a moment in this video. So for that reason, this live stream is going to include some other things, some other animations that are also exciting. So yeah, what you're gonna see in this live stream is, first of all, we're gonna look at what's new in Reanimated 3. Then we're gonna look how we can use it at this moment in an Expo project. We're gonna work with shared element transition. I'm gonna give you some examples, and in a moment I'm also gonna show you exactly what we're gonna build. And for that, in a lot of places, we're gonna use ChatGPT to supercharge our development skills in order to save us some time. I'm very excited about that. If you're interested in supercharging and improving your skills as a developer using the ChatGPT, then definitely watch this live stream. In the end, I also want to show you a skeleton loading animation. I think this kind of animations and this kind of use case is very common for a lot of applications. So that's also what we're gonna do in this live stream. And if you're gonna have any other ideas that we can play with today, throw them in the chat. Let's work on them together. Let's think how we can implement them together. So for everyone new here, hi, my name is Vadim. Welcome to the channel. I'm helping mobile developers build full stack mobile developers here on this channel with a goal of launching projects, building application, building impactful application. So if this is one of you, make sure to subscribe to the channel, not to miss any future videos. We're going live every single Friday with new exciting builds. And today we're ready to get started. Let's see, people are joining in. Today I started 1 hour earlier just because I was mostly ready with everything. And also it's a special day for us. It's the birthday of my future wife. So I want to spend some time with her in the evening. So let's wait for people to join. Hello guys. Hello Adeni. How are you doing? First in the chat. Yes, you are. We see. Where are you joining us from today? Today we're gonna interact more with the chat. So guys, if you have questions, if you have ideas, let me know and we can try to implement things together. Hello Robert. How are you doing? Hi Rogelio. Luis, hello. So, where is it? Here it should be. Yeah. So Reanimated released the stable version 3.0, which is an upgrade from the version 2. This version brings the shared element transition. This is one of the exciting features that I want to look into today. But besides that, from the development experience for us, there are not a lot of changes. Major changes happen behind the scenes under the hood for React Reanimated library, because a lot of engines were rewritten in order to make them make new opportunities possible with Reanimated. And one of these opportunities is this shared element transition. So I'm pretty sure there was a lot of work on this version. It also comes with Fabric support for the new architecture. And for example, the worklets and also the layout engine have been completely rewritten from scratch. And as I was saying, like this opens up the door for new features that I'm pretty sure will come later in Reanimated. So because this was such a big upgrade under the hood, probably the team behind Reanimated didn't want to risk it too much to change a lot of from the API. So that's why we tried to keep everything compatible with the API that you were using in Reanimated 2. And this will allow us to very easily migrate from Reanimated 2 to Reanimated 3 without having to change basically anything. But yeah, so once we make sure that everything is working, then the team will be able to work on new upgrades and come up with exciting features, which I'm really looking towards. So I would like to say, like, yeah, let's give it a try. Let's start with our application that we're gonna build today, and I want to give you a small demo for that. Where is it? Come on, here it is. So the application that I want to try to build today consists of a 2-column grid as the home screen, which is a very common layout for a lot of home screens. And whenever we press on one of these items, we are redirected to the details page. As you saw, the transition between the image on the home screen and the image on the details page, it was very seamless, and this is what we call a shared element transition. And the element from two different pages share the same animation, and basically one flows into another. So when I go back, it goes back into its position. Once I press on it, it smoothly comes to the position on this screen. So yeah, that's what we're gonna try to build. And by the end, yeah, like yeah, I don't have that one open, the server open, so I couldn't show you the skeleton loading, but we're gonna do that as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and start from scratch. Let's generate a new project. We're gonna use Expo for that, and also we're gonna use the Expo router. I'm becoming a fan of Expo router, and I've been trying these days to work with React Navigation, to build this application with React Navigation, and it already feels like a very kind of old way of doing things and very time consuming. I have to basically write a lot of code just to have like two screens connected in my application. So for that reason, we're gonna take the easy route. We're gonna use Expo router, and it's gonna simplify a lot of stuff for us. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna open my folder here, and let's start by initializing our Expo application. For that, we're gonna do npx. Should I do it? Zoom in. Npx create Expo application. We're gonna put the latest version here to take the latest version of the CLI, and we're gonna start from an example template which is called with router, and then we can give a name for our application. So Reanimated playground, I don't know, playground. Let's press enter, and this will initialize a new Expo application starting with this example project called with router, and it's gonna be set up from the beginning with the router, so we will be able to get up and running really fast. Okay, let's see the chat. How are you doing, guys? Hello, Danny from Nigeria. Good job with a thumbnail. That's good job to our designer and video editor, Catalin. So yeah, let's spam the chat. Good job, Catalin. Good job, Catalin. Really impressive work he's doing lately. Vadim, please, Uber 2.0. What's wrong with Uber 1.0? Have you followed that one? Because it's not that outdated. It was done couple of months ago, previous year. Keep React Native content coming. Yes, I'm gonna do that, definitely. Dylan, hello. Greetings from Myanmar. Hello, Chan. From Kenya. Oh, all over the world. Okay, so our project has been initialized. So I'm gonna open it in Visual Studio Code by running code, and here Reanimated playground. That should open. I can close my terminal. Let's do it like this, and now we can zoom in a bit so everyone can see. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and start run this application. I'm gonna open a terminal. You can do that from terminal, new terminal. And let's go ahead and run npm start. That will start our development server, and by pressing I can run it on iOS simulator. If you have an Android emulator, you can press A, or if you don't have simulators and stuff like that, you can simply download the Expo Go application and scan this QR code. However, today we're gonna go beyond the Expo Go environment, and you're gonna see that in a moment. So basically, you will kind of need either a simulator or an emulator, via iOS or Android. Okay, once our application is run, it says like start by creating a file in the app directory. At the moment, we don't have any app directory, but if we press on this button, if I press touch, that will automatically create an app directory with the index file in our source project. And this is how Expo Router works. Basically, every file inside our app directory represents one screen. And the home screen will be our index.js. So that's why we see the hello world, because in app index.js, we see hello world. However, if for some reason your app directory was not generated, but when pressing on that button, you can simply create this folder manually up, because I heard like in the previous live stream, some people had issues with generating this automatically. But yeah, like you can do that manually up, then you can create a file index.js. And here I'm gonna use React Native functional export, which is coming from a library from snippets. I can do home screen here. And if I save that, I still see the welcome to Expo, but if I close the development server and start it with -- clear in order to clean the cache, everything should be good, up and running, and we should see this text in the application. Come on, let's see. Yes, it's kind of, it's there, we just don't see it. So if I just put align flex 1, align content center, and justify content center, that will put the text in the middle. So we see here index. If I put hello world, the text is there. So that means that our index.js is rendered as the home screen of our application. Perfect. So let's stop here with designing our screen, because in the next step, I want to show you an easier way how we can generate layouts for our applications using, of course, ChatGPT. That's what I did, and I was thinking to give you the code for the screens that I showed you in the beginning of in the demo. But then I said, like, why should I give you the code if I can teach you how you can generate the code yourself? So yeah, basically I'm gonna teach you how to fish instead of giving you the fish. When is the giveaway? The giveaway, we have ran the giveaway in one of our previous live stream. At the end of the live stream, we did the giveaway, and the person who won was Ace. He already received access to the course. Uber 2.0 clone, please. Okay, we see a lot of people are asking for maybe not a lot, but a couple of people that are really interested in Uber 2.0. But Dim, I want to ask, in your course, do you build complete Instagram clone, including chat, notification, story, search? The Instagram clone, my premium course, the Full Stack Mobile Developer, has the goal of teaching you full stack end-to-end development, mobile development. So what I'm trying to teach you there is not how to build Instagram. What I'm trying to teach you there is how you can build any mobile applications from start till finish, both the UI using React Native and the backend using AWS Amplify. And it happens that I am teaching that using an example like Instagram, because it's quite common. So to answer your question, maybe not all the features that you're mentioning there are covered in the course, but again, the goal of the course is to teach you the mental model, the concepts, and to be able to build any kind of applications. Some of our students finished the course, and then they decided that they want to continue and build something more. And that's what they are doing. They're adding features there, they're sharing with me the code, and now they have like a full-blown application. But yeah, like in the course, I'm teaching you everything step-by-step, end-to-end, deploying to market, testing, notification, following and feed system, which is quite advanced. So yeah, we start from zero, but we get into very advanced topics. And if you're interested, you can access it at academy.notjust.dev. Thanks for asking. Good job, Katalin. Good job. Love from India. Hello, unknown. Align items. Yeah, I missed the line items there, but that's not the point. Thank you very much. Gosh, hello. Hey, Hero, I read the message. I'm gonna see, I cannot promise the Uber 2.0. Maybe we will do it, but please do not spam the chat, because I saw it. Vadim, if I take the course, do you promise I'll learn complete app development? Well, it really, like, I'm doing my best from my side to teach you everything, to include like the step-by-step and to give you materials that are easy to consume and that go into depth in order to teach you these advanced concepts that you might need in the career as a mobile developer. But at the end of the day, it depends a lot on you and your motivation to stick through, to follow through, to implement everything, to ask questions, to come to the group coaching sessions that we have once a week. Because the people that are really dedicated and interested, they will make sure to take the value out of everything and to actually become and to maximize their outcome. So if you're one of them, you're definitely gonna learn full stack mobile development and be able to build a lot of applications yourself. Okay, let's guys, keep the questions coming. I want to continue with our application, and I want to go ahead and show you how we can build mobile applications using AI. Not build completely, but speed up or supercharge our skills in order to automate things that would basically take time. So what I want to do now is I want to render a grid of 2 columns with cities, with images of the cities that you can scroll through. So I would be able to do that. Of course, I know how to do that, and probably you also have an idea how to do that, but it would take me probably 20 minutes. So instead of doing that, Why not ask ChatGPT to do it for us? So let's go ahead and go to ai.com. This will redirect us to OpenAI, to the chat GPT. And from here, let's go ahead and ask ChatGPT to do exactly what we want. So if I ask him, hey buddy, hey buddy, render a two-column grid, with, let's do it with 5 or maybe 10. Let's do less, like with 4 cities, where each item is a picture of the city and the name of the city. Let's also tell him to use URLs that are publicly accessible. Use publicly accessible URLs for images. And also, let's say we don't want any like external libraries, because it should be able to do everything like with pure React Native. So don't use external libraries. Let's see what it does. Oh, I forgot to say that it should be React Native, because it started giving me HTML, CSS. So I can press stop and I can edit it here. Render a column with 4 cities. Let's do in React Native. Let's see. Cities, okay. Let's double check if one of these URLs are actually accessible, because sometimes the images are not publicly available. And I see an error. Okay, I will tell him that cities map. Not exactly what I wanted. Use a flat list. And make sure the images are publicly accessible. Public domain pictures, is it the same one? Yeah. City grid, render flat list item, what it does there. Okay, something better. Key extractor is item.name. Add an ID to the city, to the cities. Let's add an ID so we can easier access the cities. Okay. But not that each city object now has a unique ID field. Okay. But still, the images, I don't think they're publicly accessible. It's error. The image is not publicly accessible. Sometimes it gives me, sometimes it gives me like unsplash images, and those like work for me. So we're gonna get there. Let's just try this one. Access denied. Okay. This one's returns access denied. Come on, you can do it. Image unsplash. Yeah, maybe. Still not sure if that's exactly what I need. 404. Okay, ChatGPT, we're gonna get there. This one's give 404. The first time it was actually way faster. Like the first time it didn't give me right images, and then I told him like, hey, it should be publicly accessible. Okay, this one works, I think, better. Yes, I see something. Maybe they are not the best ones. .404. What? Let me check what provider it gave me previous time. Maybe I can tell him exactly from where to take them. Data. I have here this data of cities, and it used Unsplash. Use Unsplash weekly photo for city images. Try the GPT-4 beta model. We could do that as well. Look here. You know what? I'm gonna use them. I'm not gonna waste time. I'm gonna use the cities that it gave me previous time. But for the rest, like for rendering things, I'm gonna use this flat list. I don't know why it says PHP here. It's super weird, but it should be good. So let's copy this code that it gave us. Let's come back in our index and let's simply paste it here. As I said, for the cities, instead of using these ones, I'm gonna create a new folder, data, and I'm gonna paste there the cities, which are very similar to what it gave me, but the URLs are much better. Like they all work. So back in index here, I will go ahead and import cities from data, save, and now here we go. We have our cities with our names and everything looks pretty. I can adjust some of the styles. For example, for the whole container, I don't need so much space around this container, so I just remove it. Yeah, this looks much better. Yeah, I'm happy with this one. Now what I want to do is I want to render the details page of one of these cities. So let's go ahead here and say render the details page of one city. On top, we will display the city image, full width. Then the city name. What else do we want to render there? The city name, and below some details about the city as hard-coded text. Let's try it like this. So city details, it takes the name from the route params to render some lorem ipsum there. Here is how the city details page will look like, and it tried to what? The image you are requesting does not exist or is no longer available. It tried to render it, but it failed. That's weird. Okay. If it can render the output of how it will look, and it will be exactly the same, like I would be surprised. But let's go ahead and copy this code in our application. And let's go ahead and add a new file for the city that we want to render. So I'm going to call it, I'm going to have an ID in this path. So that's why I'll put the ID in the square bracket, ID.js. And here we're going to do it like this. And now, Yeah, the only thing is that I'm not gonna send in the, there is not gonna be a route. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get the ID using export router, and we're gonna get it using the use search params from export router, and there we will have the ID that we have in this path. Now, using this ID, what we can do is we can look for the city. So city equal, we're gonna look for all the cities that we have in data. We're gonna find the city that has the ID that we're looking for. Okay, and in our code here, instead of image, I'm gonna do city.image, city.name, and we can give it a try. Now, in order to redirect from one page to another, from the index to there, what we have to do is we have to link from one of these city grid items, from this render item, we have to link towards the city page here. To do that, we will use the link property that we can import from export router, link from export router. I'm gonna put all the view here. And the link will be, we'll have a URL. The href will be the ID of our city, so item.id, and the link will render actually a text inside. So if we want to replace everything that is inside the link with a clickable component, we can pass here as child. So now the link will pass down all the properties to the child component. And because it will pass like also the onPress event, the child component should be not a view, but a pressable in order to be able to handle the onPress event. Now, whenever we press on this city component, we're gonna be redirected to the /item ID, which is actually this route. We're gonna take the ID from here, we're gonna get the city, and we're gonna render the name and so on. Let's give it a try. If I press on Sydney here, nothing happens. If I reload and then press on Tokyo, again, nothing happens. Why? href, pressable, render item. Why is that? Do you know? Where did we import pressable? Is it from React Native? Yes, as child, href. For example, if I would have here after the name a link, click here with the href, will that work? Click here. It does not redirect us to the item ID. What's the item ID? Item.id. The item ID is correct. Should we make it as a string? But it should be a string. I think we should actually make it as a string and starting with a slash. Now, yes, now it goes there. So what we were missing is the slash at the beginning of a href. So if I do it like this now, if I press on the whole component, it works, but the next one we get an error, image of undefined. Image of undefined. So most probably these cities. Should I remove one equal mark? Yes. Yeah, the problem was they were different types. And now if I just simply do 2 equal signs, not 3, then it actually works. Perfect. But the problem is that at the moment we do not have the back button. We can probably go ahead and add in the layout the stack, but we can also let's do it like this. Let's render a back button here at the top. Render a back button using an icon from expo vector icons that displays on top left corner as absolute position. Let's see. City details, handle on press. It has a style. Okay. What else it has? Okay, it has a touchable opacity with Ionicons and on press. Let's try to add it without thinking too much. And we're gonna add it in the city details page here. I'm gonna add it after the view, basically at the end here. We will need to import the touchable opacity. We will need to import Ionicons from expo vector icons. We're gonna have to implement the back button like this, but instead of using the navigation, I'm gonna use the router. So probably, yeah, ChatGPT doesn't know about expo router yet because it was trained with data from up until 2021, if I'm not mistaken. So use router will get us the router, and then we can call router.back. For the back button, let's copy the styles. Back button here has a position absolute, perfect. Let's try to do it now. Ionicons doesn't exist. I was importing. Did I import it in somewhere else? Ionicons, come on, come here. Okay, we have a back button, and the problem is that if I press on it, nothing happens. Let's try to do a console warn back. Something was happening. Maybe it's behind the safe area. So it's too, maybe we can increase the top position to, I don't know, 50. And now it works. Awesome. Okay, perfect. So we have our screens that we can work with. Amazing. I will delete this console warn, and I can actually go do router.back directly on the I will leave it like this. Okay, so that's our application. Now what we want to do in the next step is to have a smooth transition between the two screens. And what specifically we want to do is we want to have a shared element transition between the image of a city on the home screen and the image that we render on the detail screen. And yeah, we want basically one to move in the direction and basically to transform in the other. So it gives this feeling of a smooth experience. Basically, it connects the screens better together. Let's, that is building user interfaces using ChatGPT. And it's, basically super fast. What do you think about this, guys? Are you using ChatGPT for these kind of tasks? Vadim, if I copy code, how can I install all the dependencies? For that, you would have to run npm install. So for example, if I ask ChatGPT, if I ask it like, I don't know, render a human readable current time, it will probably, let's make him actually use a third-party library. So I'm going to edit my task, render human readable current time using, I don't know, days.js. And that will show us the code using an external library. And then you can say, I can stop and say, give me the npm install command for external libraries. So yeah, for the React Native Vector icons, you need to run npm install React Native Vector icons. For the Day.js, npm install Day.js. I am using Expo. Let's see if it changes my mind. Yeah, it says we need to use Expo install. So Expo install React Native Vector icons and Expo install Days.js. ChatGPT can do a lot of things. The only thing is the way you ask it and what you ask it. Hola Dejo, for React Native tutorials for beginners, check out the latest video that we have on the channel where we build a Tesla clone. These Tesla clones are the videos that are the most beginner friendly that I'm doing on the channel. So let me actually show it to you. Come on. So if you go to the to our YouTube channel, go to the Live tab. Go to the Live tab. And here there is your first React Native application. And in this one, we take it step by step, very easy, very simple application. In under 2 hours, you have a working application. Why do you use Expo instead of React Native CLI? That question I answered quite a lot of time. Because the developer experience is much better with Expo, you get a lot of more things out of a box, and it's much more easier to work with Expo in comparison with React Native CLI. And nowadays there are little to no downside to using Expo. So if 4 years ago you'd say like, oh, there is some limitations going with Expo, these limitations nowadays are solved and you do not have them anymore. So there is literally less and less reasons going with React Native CLI. So going back to our application, I'm gonna go ahead and we have here, what do we have here? Do we have a Git repository status? Let's do git add, git commit. Let's do UI. So we have a point in time. We check the code. So to make sure that, yeah, like we can look back at what we did differently. Perfect. So what I want to do next is I want to get started with React Native Reanimated, because the shared element transition that I was talking about, where we want the image on the first screen to basically flow and animate towards the image in the second screen, that is part of Reanimated free library. The thing is that if we look in the documentation of Expo Reanimated, at the moment, yeah, you could go with this with this installation guide, but at the moment of recording this video, Expo does not yet support out-of-the-box Reanimated free library. They have, they're still using Reanimated too, because Reanimated free has been launched a couple of weeks ago. But probably when you're watching this video afterwards, like after a couple of weeks or months, then the developer experience should be much better, and you should be able to follow the installation guide of Reanimated from the Expo documentation. And the way to check it, like I can go ahead and try to do it. Do npx expo install React Native Reanimated in our project. And yeah, the problem is that now if I look in the package.json, we see that the Reanimated version is 2. If in your case, doing that, install the version 3, then good to go, you are done, and you can skip the next parts where we will manually install Reanimated 3 in our Expo application. However, if you're watching this at the moment of this live stream or in the next couple of days or weeks, then go ahead and follow the steps together with me to use a custom third-party library in Expo. And yeah, we're gonna learn how we can do that, because as I said, with Expo nowadays you don't have a lot of limitations. You get a lot of things working perfectly out of the box. For example, this Reanimated, even though it has a lot of native code, it's available on the Expo Go. And the Expo Go is the application that we are using, as you can see, to run our project on the phone. So what does that mean? It means that this Expo Go application is a pre-built application that contains a lot of native code. For example, it contains the code for Reanimated version 2. The problem is that in the next step, if we're gonna try to, if we go to the Reanimated installation guide, let's go to view docs, installation, and we're gonna start by installing React Native Reanimated, and let's do npm install React Native Reanimated, and I'm gonna specify that I want to install the version 3 by specifying the version here. Without it, will it work? Just by doing install Reanimated, no, it's still 2.0. And why did it fail to do it like this? Okay, that's weird. But can I do npx expo uninstall to uninstall the library? What I can do is actually I can do git stash, and that will stash my changes. And if I look in the package.json, come on, it shouldn't be here. Why you're still here? Package.json. Reanimated. Shouldn't be here. I'm going to delete it manually. And I'm going to run npm install React Native Reanimated like this. Now, what version did it install? Reanimated. Don't see it yet. Reanimated 3.0.2. Now we talk. Perfect. So far, so good. But the problem will arise when we will actually start to work with the Reanimated library. I already see the error, and if we open the dev tools, we see Reanimated, mismatch between the JavaScript part and the native part of Reanimated. That means that the JavaScript part of our library that we install with npm is the 3.0.2, but the native part that is pre-built in the Expo Go application, that version is 2.14. So we cannot use the two different versions. We have to basically somehow install version 3.0 in our Expo Go. Well, we cannot rebuild Expo Go. This is what we get out of the box from Expo. What we can do is we can kind of build a custom version of Expo Go that will specifically be for our project and will include the native code for our project. And that sounds more complicated, and even for me, like, I was always trying to stay away from these kind of things, but it's not that complicated. The only thing that we have to do, I'm gonna, I will stop the server here, is npx expo run double dots. Where do we want to run, on iOS or Android? We're gonna do Android, enter. And that will pre-build our application and will generate this the native application. So it asks us about the iOS bundle. I can press enter here. What we see, it generated the iOS folder, and this is the native folder, similar to what you get in React Native CLI. So you can open this in Xcode, you can see this, but it's quite different, and it's not similar to what Expo Eject was a couple of years ago. Because now we can safely delete this iOS folder and nothing will break. Like, it's gonna still be the same Expo project. And later, when Expo will support the Reanimated free version, we will be able to come back to use the Expo Go application, because it's going to be pre-built in the Expo Go environment. Does it make sense, guys? I'm trying to explain it in very simple terms. So yeah, it's installing CocoaPods. The thing is that to do this locally, you have to have for example, to run it on iOS, you have to have Xcode set up, the Xcode environment. To do it on Android, you have to have Android Studio with emulators and Java and SDKs and so on. Another thing is that you can build these custom development clients. That's what they're called, custom development clients. You can do that with EAS. You can do that in cloud if you do not have, if you're working on a Windows machine, for example. So you cannot install Xcode. You are still able to do that using EAS. Why you used npm installed and what would be different if you used expo installed. The thing is that using expo installed, expo will try to install the library that it supports. That usually doesn't mean that it's the latest version. It just means that it's the version that is compatible with the out-of-the-box, like what you get from expo. So if I did that the first time and it installed the 2.3 library from Reanimated, because at the moment that's what Expo supports. I wanted to install version 3.0, so that's why I went a bit on my own and used npm install to install the latest version of Reanimated. And now what I'm doing is I am building a custom development client, and that means that I'm not going to use Expo Go. I'm going to use a custom development client where we can have any kind of libraries with native code, as long as they have config plugins for Expo. But nowadays, I think a lot of native libraries contain config plugins for Expo. Exactly, Vladimir. So when Expo adds supports for v3, which should be in probably the next version, you can delete iOS Android folders. Yes, you can delete iOS and Android folders, and you can come back to using Expo Go environment. Like, as simple as that. Like, yeah. So as we can see, the project was built, the development server is running, but now is a custom development server. And on our phone, it says open in Reanimated playground. Let's open. And as you can see, it will load. It shows the same thing, but it doesn't show the error anymore of incompatible versions. And if I check, these are two different native applications. Previously, we were using Expo Go, and in Expo Go, we had that error of mismatch in version because Expo Go doesn't include Reanimated Free at the moment so far. But building a custom development client, it automatically builds the native code inside our application so we can use anything that we want. Hopefully that makes sense. So now we are free to use Expo, the Reanimated Free library with all its capabilities. The next time, for example, if I stop it here, the next time I want to run the server, I will still go through the npx expo run iOS. Because using the npm start command will start the it rebuilds and it opens it back in this application. I think you can do npm start as well. I started saying that you should always do like to run in the development, you should always do npx expo run iOS. But I'm thinking that this actually does a lot of things, like it rebuilds actually the native application, and sometimes that's not what you want to do, like you just want to start the server again. And I think you can do, you can do npm start, and let me do help here, because you can start the dev client here. Start the bundler for use with Expo development client. Let's try that. npm start -- dev client, and this will simply start with dev client. And if I press reload, no apps. If I press I to open on iOS, will it open? I think it does. Let me close everything. Press I again. Yes, it opens. Yeah, so you don't have to rebuild your application every time using npx expo run iOS. If you didn't add any new libraries, you can simply do npm start -- dev client, and this will open the bundler for the development client. Thomas, hello. How are you doing? I didn't prepare the assets today. It's follow along. So yeah, the video is going to be published on the channel. You can watch it and look. All right, so let me see what other people are asking. Maybe we can cover some questions. What about using Android? For Android, it's the same. npx expo run Android. I actually haven't tried that, but you can't use the QR code anymore. You cannot use it from the Expo Go, because, as I said, this is a different environment than Expo Go. But if you have this project on your phone, and by scanning this QR code, it will automatically open it. So you have to install this native application on your phone. For example, if you build it with EAS, you can download it on your iOS device, on Android, and any other physical devices. Aditya, no worries, the video is going to be live. Today, actually, we started 1 hour later. So let's see our questions. Hey Case is saying, yes, it had limitations. That's why I use React Native, but seems I should try Expo now. Definitely. Like, it's really, really very, very rarely where you would have to use React Native CLI nowadays. VAB size in Expo is massive compared to CLI. I don't think so. After the recent updates, the Expo application, if I'm not mistaken, is around like 11 megabytes or something like that out of the box. There is still some possibilities to improve that, but out of the box, like in the past, yeah, it was 40, 50 megabytes, but now I think it's around 12 megabytes. Have you created a Redux tutorial for React Native? Yes, we have done that. Check out the Nike project. Even from the first video, we are getting into the Redux. That was specifically for Redux. What do you recommend for monetizing an Expo application? I've seen your videos using Revenue Cat. What else? It really depends on the application itself. There are a lot of business models to monetize an application, starting from running ads. But for that, you need an application that is consumer-based and basically has a lot of traffic, like think about social media or stuff like that. You can go with in-app purchases and in-app subscription, which I really love because it offers you recurring revenue. And to implement that, yeah, you can use Revenue Cat for that. There is also application where maybe it's an e-commerce application and you're selling something. In that case, you are able to use external providers for payments like Stripe. We have a tutorial for that as well on the channel. You can check the Nike application for that. What else? Like, yeah, there is even other methods of monetizing. If you're interested in that, maybe we can do a video on it. Hi Vadim, do you have a dedicated course on AWS Amplify? Actually, I have only one course. Like all my energy and time is invested in our premium full stack mobile development course. At this moment, I don't really like to build a bunch of courses and sell them. I want to focus and build one very, very good course, which I think it's already more like a bootcamp than a course because it has like almost 40 hours of content and a couple of projects inside it. So it teaches you the full life cycle of building mobile applications. So the biggest project there is split it in two parts. The first part is the UI part, and it has around 4 modules, and the rest is the backend, and the backend is huge. Like there we have a module, the backend is actually the AWS Amplify. I forgot to mention because that's what you're asking. You're interested in learning AWS Amplify. So we're getting started with setting up AWS Amplify, implementing all the security measures for your account, getting to know AWS in general. Then we go into the API. We have a huge module there. We have storage. Then we go into the feed and following system, which is heavily based on the backend side. Then we have notifications, building the application with CI/CD. What else? And a lot more other modules that are quite crucial for mobile development. Please, one quick demo of today's build. So today's build, so far, we use ChatGPT to help us build this application where we have 2 pages. On the first page, we have a list of cities, and the second page is the details page. With this approach, what I'm trying to do here now is I want to simulate a very common use case. A common use case where you have a list of things, and when you press on one thing, you go to the details page. And this is probably in a lot of applications. It works like this. And in the next step, I want to show you how we can implement shared element transition, which is a nice animation that will animate, for example, from this image on this screen to this image on the next screen. So far, we have implemented the UI. We have installed the the React Native Reanimated free library in our Expo application. We build our custom development client. It's a lot of terms, but it's quite simple. And we are ready to implement the shared element transition. The thing is that it's super easy to do that. What we have to do, let's go ahead and open our index file and our details page. We're gonna work with this index, which is our first page, and the details page, which is this one. All right, before we get into the shared element transition, we can define them on animated components. So we cannot do them on a normal image. We need to do it, for example, on an animated image. So for that, let's import animated from React Native Reanimated and transform this image to an animated dot image. Animated, come on, like this. Let's do the same thing in the details page. We're gonna import animated, and the image that we want to render here is going to be animated, come on, animated dot image. Let's refresh. What's happening here? Update data synchronous doesn't exist. Animated image. What's up with this? Let's go ahead and, I don't know, try to rerun the application. I'm gonna do npx export run iOS. That's not the best. And where is it coming from? Is it coming from this animated image? Update data synchronously. Or this one? Okay, that's not fun, but what we can do, to clear the cache, npm start and then clean. No, not clean. Give me the help. Clear. Let's run it on iOS. So now it works. Yeah, probably it was the cache. So now I'm gonna go back to animated image dot image. Yeah, it kind of still works. Doesn't give me the error anymore, so that's good. In any unknown situation, just simply clear the cache. Yes, it works. So making the images animated didn't change anything, but it now allows us to run animations on them. So the animation that we want to run is the shared transition, shared element transition. So by look how simple it is. We just provide the shared transition tag, for example, image, and we do the same tag to the details page on the image. And because we have a same tag, now they'll animate one into another. So if I do New York here, I need to reload the application simply. Come on, it should work. Come on. Shared transition tag. You can do it. Do you want me to clear again? I don't think so. It shouldn't. Animated image, shared transition tag image. Hello? Why are you not working? The Reanimated 3.0. The right one. Let's check the documentation. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. So let's go to React Native Reanimated in the API reference, shared element transition. And here, maybe the different thing that we have right now, I just realized. If we scroll down to the limitations, it specifies that the only the native stack is supported. So I was thinking that by default, the stack here, the navigation stack is the native stack, but probably it's not. So let's go ahead and create the layout file to specify that the navigation should use a native stack navigation. So in the app, we're going to generate the underscore layout dot .gs. And here, let's export default function root layout. And this one will return simply the stack. A stack that is imported from export router. What? What's wrong? Oh my god. Const. What's up with everything today? It doesn't want this stack here. No, it actually wants. And now, yes, now something is working. So if I scroll down to the Singapore and press on the Singapore, this Singapore is working really nicely. We finally have our shared element transition. So the problem was we went into one of the limitations of the current version of shared element transition. And that, as I was saying, like in the known issues and limitations, at the moment, the shared element transition are only supported in the native stack. So that's why we had to specify that we want to use the stack for our root layout, and now everything is working as expected. The problem is that only the Singapore looks nice because the Singapore is coming from the bottom to the top. But if we press on the Sydney, for example, it's gonna look that it comes from the bottom. And why is that happening? Well, because this share transition tag, the key that we are using is the same for all the images in our grid. And what it does, it basically maps the last item with the same key from here with the last item from there. And in this page is the Singapore, so that's why all of them are coming from the bottom. we can basically adjust this to say that this tag is unique for every single element, and it's composed of image, then dash, then we can do item.id. So every single city, every single item in our list will have a unique shared transition tag, and we should do the same in our details page here. And by doing that, here not item but city, by doing that and refreshing, now all of them will look good. They will come from their position. They will know basically which elements are actually mapped. How beautiful and how easy it is. At this moment, I think I don't need this back button because we are using them. But maybe if we still don't want to see the header, we can do that here. Like in the stack, we can open up the stack and we can define the stack.screen. And by specifying the name of our file, for example, ID, we can provide navigation options here, like header shown. And these navigation options are the options from React Navigation because Expert Router is built on top of React Navigation. We can do false. And now it doesn't have that ugly header, and we have the image that spans across the whole screen under the notch. It looks really nice. And I think a lot of applications are using this kind of interface. Nishad is saying, whoa, it is really simple, thanks. Yes, indeed. It's when I saw like how simple it is, like I was like, whoa, okay. So the only thing that that you have to do to implement this shared element transition is to provide the shared transition tag property on an animated view, not a simple view, it should be animated. And if you provide the same ID for two elements on different screens, then one will map to the other. So the image here will map to the image here that has the same ID. That's how it works. And now both navigating there and navigating back will do this shared element transition. Technically, how it works is when this happens, when we press on one item here, basically one animation starts that moves from one screen to another, right? So during that animation, the component from the first page is detached from the parent, where actually I think it's duplicated, and it's animated towards the direction and towards the sizes of the element on the second screen. And when it reaches that destination, it basically disappears, and we see the component from the second screen, from city details. And the same when going back. A component is created that is based on a clone of our element. It's animated towards that direction while the page animation is running. And when it reaches the destination, it stops there. Because of this way of animating, at the moment, only these properties will animate in the shared element transition. The width, the height, origin X, origin Y for their position, and the transform matrix. So other properties like colors, or for example, I wanted to animate the title as well, and I went into this limitation of not being able to animate all properties. For example, if in index I want to animate the title as well, animated.text, and for the shared transition tag, I'm gonna do title of an item. And if I'm gonna do the same for the title in our description, here is the text for the city name. I'm gonna do the same. We're using the city. Come on. Why I don't want to... Oh, I should do animated.text for the closing tag as well. So if I have on the first screen the animated text with a shared transition text tag, and on the second one the same one, if I'm gonna do the I have to reload the position of this title. Oh, on reload, like we can get these weird bugs where the component is not removed. And it's very clearly visible like how the animation works. As you can see, it is created on top of the screen, on top of everything else. It is a detached component, and that's why bugs like this can occur. Even after reloading the application, it's still here. So I think I have to just close it and open it again. But now, yeah, what I was trying to do is to animate also the text there. And as you can see, the text doesn't animate very pretty. Because they have not only the position of the text is changed, but also the font size and the other properties in the styles. So in the styles, if we look at the text, the font size here is 16, and here it is name also 16. Are we the same actually? I don't think so. No, this is detail text. For the details title, no. For the name is 24. So I'm gonna do a 20 font size on both screens. For the name here, 20. And now it should look a little bit better, but still the text align is messed up. So in this situation, it doesn't look very good. So what I can do is comment out the text align. So the text starts from the beginning, and now it looks a bit better, as you can see. Yeah, especially these ones look really nice. Instead of, like, at the end of the day, like, we can still make this text in the center. Well, the thing is that it's gonna be done a bit differently. So instead of doing text align center on the name, I think we can do, where is our name? On the city container, we can do align items center. And now, yeah, now it works. Because it's not our property of animated text that is being changed, but it's its position. So in this situation, it works. So we still have this centered text. To make this look even better on the stack screen, in the options, we can say animation, we want to slide from the bottom. And in this situation, the content will slide from the bottom. Yeah, something like this. All right, so that's some of the limitations of shared element transition. Remember, at this moment, only these properties are animated: the width, height, origin, and the transform matrix. Things like colors, text align, or text size, font size, at the moment they are not animated. And if the two elements that you are trying to transition to have different properties for these specific styles, the animation will look a little bit clunky, I would say. In future, we are planning to enable the animation of all possible styles during a shared transition. We want to calculate the layout for shared view children. What else? to add the possibility to implement own screen transition with customized animation for screen changes. Allow shared transition to work for components located within the same screen. Not sure how that will work or how that should look. Oh, shared transition. If you're scrolling, for example, down, like some of the items, I don't know, maybe. Progress-based animation. So there is a lot of things that are coming for this feature. It's very early on, and even they are saying that it is still an experimental feature. And yeah, it's just the beginning of using this type of animations in React Native. What do you think about these guys? I love it. I can just do this all day long. Hello, Alexandra, and happy birthday. Why you are listening here? All right, speaking about that, I think very shortly I should spend some time with Alexandra because it's her birthday today. And we can go to the next feature that I want to show you today, and probably the last one in the video. Aditya is asking the difference between initializing an Expo application using the property -e with router and without it. We are doing that to start from... I did something. We are doing the with router property when initializing an Expo application to start use the project with the router installed out of the box. Otherwise, it's going to initialize an empty Expo application, and we would have to go through the installation guide of the Expo router, which, yeah, we can save some time by using the with router example. Can you explain about the layout.js file? The layout.js file in our here is the shared file that basically is used in all of the screens inside our application. You can have multiple layouts, and the layout is basically what is shared between screens. In our case, we are sharing the configuration for the stack. In other cases, for example, think about bottom tab navigators or top tab navigators. This part of the UI is shared between different screens. And that's why you would need a layout to set them up there and be rendered and displayed in all the screens inside that, in that level of screens. What we did now, why we needed layout, is to specify that we want to use a native stack navigator, because without this, it was using probably some other type of navigators, and that's why we were not able to work with the shared element transition. All right, so guys, as I was saying, now I want to show you how you can build skeleton loading animations for your application. This feature is quite common in a lot of applications, and you would basically display this kind of skeleton loading while you're waiting for some data to be fetched from your server. So for example, you open the application, you start fetching the data to display like a list of posts, but instead of rendering like a spinner, a default spinner, you would render some kind of skeleton to make it feel that there is something in the application coming there. So how can we do that? There is some third-party libraries for that, but I want to show you how easy and simple you can do that as well. So for that, I'm going to go in our... first, let me actually do git add commit shared element transition. For that, I'm gonna open our index.js, and this is the file that renders our 2-column grid. So we have here the flat list, we have here the render item. Actually, instead of render item, let me put it into a component like city item. So this city item is going to be like this, equal. I just want to have a custom component for this city item, yes. So what we have now is a flat list that renders city items. At the moment, these cities are imported from dummy data, but imagine that we would have a loading state. Basically, we would have to fetch these cities. So we would have a loading, and set loading state. We're going to initialize it with true because in the beginning we start loading things. And while we are loading the cities, they will not be available. So for that reason, we should check like if loading is true, not loading, but loading. If loading is true, then we should return some kind of a UI feedback that something is happening in the application. An easy way would be an activity indicator from React Native, and that will simply show this loading indicator on the top. Well, that's boring. We want to show the skeleton thing. So how we are going to do that? Well, first of all, we have to kind of map our components or our UI to some kind of very minimalistic box, gray boxes on the screen. So I'm going to copy the city item to a separate component that will be called city item skeleton. And this will render a very similar user interface as our city item, but it will not have any data, and it will simply render some gray boxes instead of this. So let's start simplifying a bit here. So we're not going to have a link here because we will not be able to press on the skeleton. It's not going to be a pressable. It's going to be probably a view. So let's do view here. It's not going to be an animated image, but it's going to be a simple view with some styles. We can leave the same styles as the image because the image specifies like the width and the height, so we need that. The only thing that we want to add to the image is the background color of gray or something like that. So back to our city item skeleton. The view will not have a source. It's going to simply be a view with some styles. And for the text, let me simplify the text itself with not being it animated. What we want to do is, instead of a text, to render another box, another small box there. So I'm going to delete the text and render another view here with some styles. For example, style, I don't know, height of, how high is the line for the text, like 20 pixels or something like this, a width of maybe 50% of a container, and a background color. I'm not gonna use gray but yeah, let's start with gray. Actually, I will use Gainsborough. That's a lighter shade of gray. Now let's go ahead and render this city skeleton item instead of rendering the loading. So if I do one of them here, city item skeleton, we're gonna see it like this. But we don't want to render one of them. We want to render basically the same flat list as here. So I can copy the flat list. Instead of cities, we can specify how many items we want to render. And instead of city item, we want to render a city item skeleton while it's loading. Key extractor is not gonna have a key extractor. And here we have it. For the background of the image, I'm gonna go ahead and say it should also be gains borrow, like this. And we see that the name has some margin top. So let's add the same margin top to the second view here to show basically the same. Yeah. Now, if I display it like this with gray boxes, and then if I change from true to false, basically the gray boxes are filled with images and with text. So there is not so much of a layout shift, like nothing changes very drastically on the screen, only content appears. So that's the goal of rendering skeletons, is to kind of give an impression and show like how the user interface will look like, to prepare basically the user for what's to come. And then when the data comes, you change from loading true to false, and it appears here with actual data. Okay, that's the simplest way you can render the skeleton. But again, whenever something is happening, at the moment it's not clear, like, is it an error? What's happening? To show that something is happening behind the scenes, like you'd usually show some activity indicators or show some movement basically in the user interface. What I want to do here is I want these gray boxes to pulsate, and to say that will indicate that, yeah, like we're loading, like hold on, stay here for a bit. To do that, we're gonna use Reanimated to animate the opacity value of our boxes here. So let's go ahead and this skeleton, make it into a add the return statement here, because we will need to add some values here. We will start with adding the opacity, and opacity is going to be a use shared value from React Reanimated. And the initial value of our opacity is going to be 1. When opacity is 1, it's fully visible. When opacity is lower, it's less visible. When doing that, my other component disappeared. So I'm gonna do Ctrl Z a bit until it appears here, city grid. And now I'm gonna paste the opacity. Okay. What's up? Hooks can only be called inside of a body of a function component. This is a function component. What's popping? Yeah, this is the body of a functional component. Is it coming from here? Use shared value. Use shared value. Should we try with function, not with an arrow function? It shouldn't be the case. What am I doing there? That's interesting. Use shared value from React Native Reanimated. It's in the body. You might have more than one copy of React in the same app. I don't need React. What's going on? Let me check something. Opacity. Maybe it's because we're not using opacity. I don't know. Let's try to use opacity. And the cool thing is that with Reanimated free, another benefit is that now we can use shared values directly in the style of our animated view, for example. So here we can provide these styles, and then we can provide the opacity without having to declare a styled. Why are you not working? Yeah, let me restart it. So yeah, as I was saying, another benefit of Reanimated free library is now we can use this opacity that is a shared value directly as the style property in our application. So why? Use shared value. This is the body of a component. Return. Flat list. Can it be item index? Maybe. It's super weird. Opacity 1. Opacity 0.5. If I do here, I use effect, will it have the same error? Because it tells me that I'm not using the hook in the body, but it's actually body. Console log mounted. Look, it's in the body of a city item skeleton, and it tells me hooks only can be called inside the body of a function. I know that, yeah, like if you add them like in a if statement, if true, then do this, like it's not gonna work because it should be in the body. But I'm not doing that. Like it's right here. What am I missing? What am I missing? I don't like it. What props am I missing? I'm going nuts. Some namings. What? Use state. Will it give the same thing? Use state at the top. Of course. Without it, it works. I don't get it. I don't get it. City item skeleton. I don't know if it will has anything to do with this. Let me go ahead and create a folder component. New file. skeleton item.js. Let me bring this one there. Not city item, but this one. The skeleton one. Let me export default. I will call it skeleton item. And we're gonna export it here. Also, we need to bring in all the import statements. I'm gonna delete most of these imports. And for the I'm also gonna bring in the styles there. Let's import the style sheet from React Native. What else? What else? And we need to import it here. In the index, import skeleton item and render it here. It's the same. Yes, it's the same. Function skeleton item how? Please send help. Now it works. 21. It works. If I add use state and if I refresh, invalid hook call. The issue is in the render item. I don't think it should be, but I can. Really? Wait a second. Wait a second. You're telling me. Yes, I switched from render item function to a component, and that's why. Thank you very much, Vitaly, for pointing that out. Now, finally, I can use my hooks like a use state in the skeleton item, because right now it works. Before that, I was, instead of rendering this skeleton item, I was giving it as a function, and it was treating it as a function, not as a functional component. Now I switch to a function that returns that renders the component. Okay. So back in our skeleton here, I don't need the loading, I need the opacity thing. So the opacity, I'm gonna send it to our animated view here, and also to the text. So the text also is going to be an animated view that will contain the animated opacity. Nothing changes, but if I do here 0.1, we should see that the opacity of these blocks are, like lower. The gray is barely visible. So by moving the opacity value here in the shared value, we're going to animate, like these two boxes on the screen. So how do we start changing the opacity value? Well, we're gonna do that whenever the component mounts. So for that, we need the use effect. And we're going to, where is it? We're going to use some helper functions for animations. For example, like with delay, with repeat, and so on. Because initially, like we can say, like, yeah, like opacity. We can change the opacity value when the component mounts to go from 1 to 0. So if we put it to 0, if I refresh, it right away is set to 0. What we can say is we want to not instantly change the opacity to 0, but throughout a period of time, a period of short time. And for that, we can use the with timing. And with timing, we'll gradually move the value from what we have at the beginning 1, it will gradually move it to 0. And if I refresh, we should see how very fast it fades away. We can adjust how fast that happens using the config. So here in the with timing, we can specify how long should the animation take. So if we provide the duration, which by default is 300 milliseconds, if we say that it should take 1 second, and if we refresh, now we see that the animation runs slower. And probably we don't want to go to 0, we want to go to 0.2 or something like that. But we don't want this to happen only once. We want this animation, the one that we set here, to repeat. So we're going to wrap the whole with timing inside the with repeat. And if we do this, we're going to repeat this animation. We need to import it from React Native Reanimated. And the first one is the animation. The second one is how many times should we repeat? For example, if we put 3 times, it's going to repeat three times. So if I refresh, we see 1, 2, 3, and then it stops. Well, we don't want to repeat it 3 times. We want to repeat it infinite number of times, as long as we are rendering it. So for that, we can send -1, and that will repeat this animation over and over again. Another thing is that we don't want to see that jump at the end, because what it does, it goes from 1 to 0.2 in 1 second, then back to 1 right away, and then back to 0.2. So the jump from 0.2 to 1 is very fast. What we can do is, if we send true as the third parameter of a repeat, this parameter specifies if we want to reverse the animation back. And now the animation will go, the opacity will go down, then will go up, down, up, and so on. Probably 2 is too little, like 6. To be less, yes. And now we have like this breathing animation that looks really, really nice. You can further play with these helpers to adjust it the way you want it. For example, I can add some delay between the repetitions. So I will put in between a with delay, and the delay can be another second. And I will close it here. We need to import with delay. With delay. And now I will do it towards actually 0 for us to see what's happening. So what it does, it goes to 0. It stays there for a second. And it doesn't do anything else. I don't know why it's not working when we add it with delay. With delay, with timing. Probably the reverse operation doesn't work here because it reverses with delay, not with timing. So we would probably, if we want to do this, we will probably have another hook with sequence to put two animation in sequence. So with sequence, the first one, it's an array. The first one will be going to 0. Then the second one is going to be going to back to 1. So we're gonna do the reverse ourselves. I'm not sure if that's how with sequence works. With sequence, oh, it's not an array, it's simply multiple animations. Here, -1, and we don't need true at the end, I think, because we reversed it ourselves. Now it goes to 0, it stays there for a second, it goes back to 1, it stays there for a second, and so on. So yeah, like now playing with these numbers, like how much you wait when you go to 0 and back. For example, you can go to 0 and back to 1 without waiting. Like this delay, maybe we don't need it. Like 0, 1, wait, 0, 1, wait. Yes, now I think it's much better. And instead of 0, I will switch back to 0.5. Okay, now it looks much better. It also has like scrolling from flat list. That's actually optional. Like you don't have necessarily to render a flat list for this one. You might want to render them simply by looping through the items. So we can stop here. Like that's actually like, yeah, like you can generate an array of 10 items and loop through them, and for every item render the skeleton item there, instead of rendering a flat list that is scrollable. Alright, so that was everything that I have prepared for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Let me know what questions you have. If you have some interesting questions, we can cover them now. Otherwise, we can start our weekend. Let me know in the comment. Do you love today's live stream? What animations do you want to try to implement in your application? Let me know. Hello Radu, how are you doing? Should I learn React Native CLI way or Expo as a beginner? As a beginner, go ahead with Expo because it's much easier to get started. Even from setting up your development environment, you are up and running with Expo like in probably 10 minutes. The only thing you need is npm, and that's it. Like you can start working and developing mobile applications without having to go through all the struggles of setting up Xcode, Android Studio, and so on. Using React Native Reanimated free with JavaScript is a pain. Why do you think so? Alright guys, so thank you very much for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this one, if you took out some value and if you learned something new. Also, don't forget to turn on the notification bell not to miss any of our future live streams. We're going live every single Friday with exciting projects, and we're here to help you build impactful applications. Thank you very much, and